Welcome to GVin and Mike, episode 56. Mikey Mike, Lawrence Taylor, 56. The great LT.
What's up, Mikey? Mike is here. What's up, Vin?
Mike. Before we came on, the Aaron Judge news was going crazy. Where is he going to end up? Is he a San Francisco Giant? No. Is he a New York Yankee? No. So no news right now. They're saying that he's still in play for the Yankees, but we were getting a little bit nervous as John Heyman was jumping the gun there a little bit today, saying that he was on his way to San Francisco.
Jumped the gun a little. He made chaos out of nothing. He really jumped the gun.
I mean, it's amazing when you're someone like John Heyman that's been around a long time covering baseball, have 800,000 Twitter followers, and first of all, your first post says arson judge goes to the Yankees. Yeah. You have to delete that because you misspelled. And then, it said arson judge goes to the Giants. You delete that. Then Aaron Judge going to the Giants. And then he deleted that and then apologizes for jumping the gun. And meanwhile, you got everybody and their mother jumping in on his tweet and saying, breaking news, Aaron Judge is going to the Giants. It's amazing how people just steal other people's stuff. It's unbelievable. But
we should know probably in the next 48 hours, though, I would assume.
Yeah, I think I think the winter meetings are closed, they're done. There's all those discussions, agents show up there. There's just a lot of talk. I know that the latest information that I'm reading is the Yankees are still in. Michael Kay says they're still in. Everybody's saying they're still there. So it's not something I think we're getting crazy about right now. Let me just double check before, as I'm saying this, that he didn't actually sign somewhere. And
I don't think he did.
And the thing, let's see. No, I think we're okay still. All right, we'll check it out throughout the course of the show. But let me get to some of our fun stuff here. Viggy Bets, our first and original sponsor. Check him out at Viggy Bets. You can check Viggy at Twitter, Instagram at Viggy Bets. He's giving away some really good promotions. It's bowl season now, right? Pick your bowl games. I'm pretty sure I'll have a bunch of stuff there about college bowls. We're getting closer to the NFL playoffs, all that good stuff that Viggy handicaps on. Give him a shout out, check him out at Viggy Bets on Twitter or Instagram, and tell him you're a friend of Vin and Mike. Also, we are on the Pigskin Podcast Network. We're in KKFI in Kansas City, where it was a tough weekend for them, but we love them out there in Kansas City. Our website, vinandmikepodcast.com, for everything, including a link now to our store for the official Vin and Mike podcast T-shirt.
Here's a funny story about this.
Woo!
Vinny sends me a picture, and you can't really see. You see it a little bit, but you see the picture. It looks great. The search looks great quality. But he looks like he's a bouncer at a New Jersey bar. And I actually said we had on Instagram like a poll. He's a New Jersey bouncer or a podcaster. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that poll looks like. But regardless, it looks great. I'm probably going to get mine tomorrow. I know some other people ordered coming this week. We appreciate it. Just go now. Vinny has it on the website. You can just see our store, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. We had 8 different purchases. Really excited about that we saw on the site. And like we said, all our proceeds are going to charity. We should get our proceeds usually the 15th of every month, at least know what we're getting. I don't know when we get the money itself, but what we'll do is around that time, we'll tell everybody, where we're going with our proceeds, what charity we're donating to. Also on the Instagram is our contest, The Spies on the Sidelines audiobook. I think right now only 2 people entered, so they're going to win
50 shot.
That's it. They're basically going to win. Each one of them are going to get the audiobook, for free. They didn't do nothing. They're just there. They're good fans. That's what we like,
Fans, consistent.
Yeah, people are already liking shirts. There you go. Yeah. Golden Honey says nice shirts. Thank you.
I just got to say one other thing about our fans. Every once in a while we look at our analytics, and was so proud to say that in one of the previous episodes, we went from 200 something downloads all the way close to 1,100 in one episode. So we have the nice part about this show is that we have social media all over the place. If you type in Mike on Google, you'll see us right away. But there's so many different ways you can listen to us.
Yeah,
that was like an honor.
Yeah, and the amount of countries we're in now, there was a staggering number when we looked at that number that we've been listened to in over 80 countries. Of course, the United States is number one, but to see some of these other countries out there that are picking up the show, we always thank our friends in India. We see a lot of retweets from people out in India that like our show, and our fans in Mexico. I've seen a lot of that, so it's pretty cool. I don't know if some of it has to do with the World Cup, as we've been talking a little bit about that. So maybe some of that. I watched the Portugal Switzerland game today. Portugal didn't even play Ronaldo. They benched him basically, and they were up like 5-0. It's like they didn't even care. It's like hey,
yesterday, what a blowout! Right?
Yeah, all these games are. I think it'll get better as we start tightening up, getting into like the quarterfinals. The U.S. did what they had to do, and it is what it is. But let's jump into our favorite thing, our favorite topic. The reason we started this podcast, if you went to our Instagram, we celebrated our 1 year get together with our friends at the Strip House. Tremendous steaks there on 12th Street in New York City. Phenomenal time with a bunch of our buddies, and thanked them for coming out and spending some time with us. It was a great night. But at that place is where we talked about, developing this podcast. And here we are a year later because we wanted to talk about football. And that's really what we're going to talk about right now. And I think we'll start off with the Giants, just to stay away from us for a little bit.
I think that's a nice thing to do.
Stay a little neutral, because I got a lot to say about your team and my team. And I know we're going to go crazy in that. But I'll tell you, I was a little disappointed in the Giants. I thought this was a game they should have won. They looked like the better team. I'm a little concerned with Daniel Jones in positions when he has to make plays to get that team, wins. He just seems like right now he's not 100% there. He just seems a little off. I'm a little worried about it. The defense played pretty good. There were some plays. I tell you, they got a very good pass rush. I like their pass rush. I think Thibodeau has really helped that a lot. Their defensive line is good. So a little concerned with some big plays they let up there, but ultimately they only let up 20 points, right? That's really what if your defense can hold you between that 14 and 20, those are games you should win. I was just disappointed in Jones. I think Barkley slowed down because I think they're keying in on him now, knowing that Jones can't make these big plays. They don't have too many receivers at all. Slayton seems like the only real serviceable guy. Everybody else it's like a 3 or 4, or not even should be in the NFL kind of receiver. So I think it all plays in, but they're still destinies in their own hands. They got a very tough game against the Eagles, who just look like the juggernaut of the NFL. But then they come right back. Washington comes off their bye. Both teams potentially, the Giants could either be 8-4-1 or 7-5-1, tied with Washington. And I think that's the biggest game of the year for them in 2 weeks. As big as this game is this week, the next week game is going to be very big, especially for tiebreakers and potentially getting that 6 or 7 seed in the wild card.
Yeah, I mean, Vinny, when Washington, though, the time of possession, they had it for 41 minutes. The Giants had it for 28 minutes. And I think I agree with you. This was the Giants game to win. It was home. They're playing them again in a couple weeks. They really held their own destiny. And I was asking some of the Giants fans out there, what do you feel about a tie? And nobody was happy, right? Because it doesn't really get you anywhere. And then literally it is a draw. Saquon Barkley, he had 18 carries for 63 yards. Definitely not one of his best performances. And Daniel Jones was just, to me, mediocre. There weren't any real big plays. Pretty stagnant game. And again, we'll talk about the Jets in a minute. These are games that you have to win because your schedule gets really tough, and it's going to be really interesting how it plays out the next couple weeks.
Yeah, besides, I know they have Washington again, the Eagles. I think they play the Eagles the last game of the year. I think the Vikings are on their schedule.
Yeah.
And I think the Colts might be the other game. And I'm not looking at the schedule. So I'm just thinking off the top of my head by what I remember we talking about. But I think those are their remaining.
And they got the Colts.
Yeah. So if they could get that Washington game and get the Colts game, and hope the Eagles are 15-1 going into the last week of the season.
Bench people. And
the Eagles are just playing Gardner Minshew and Joey Bag of Donuts over there in Philadelphia. But they can find a way to squeak it out, because it's just, I don't know. Unless they shock us, and the NFL is always that place that likes to shock you, that maybe they pull it off this week, and beat the Eagles. But it's going to be tough. They got to get a couple of games here. I think especially that Washington game. I think that's a no-brainer. If they can get that Washington game, they'll give them a game lead, give them the edge in the tiebreaker, and again, have the Colts, and then see what happens from there. So, but I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know if you can move forward with Daniel Jones after this year, because making the playoffs is one thing. How far they're going to get, I don't see him getting that far, and that's to be honest. So then you have to make a decision. You got Barkley, you got Daniel Jones. I don't think you keep both of them. You might not keep either one of them. So I'm not sure where you go. I still in the belief that the NFL, you need a quarterback that's going to win you games, because it's going to come to a point where you have to throw the ball to win the games in the NFL, because they're so close and so tight sometimes. And I don't know if Daniel Jones is that guy. When you look at him, do you think he's the guy?
No, I don't think he's the guy. I was going to make a joke, though, but now you're high on the Raiders. I was going to say Derek Carr to the Giants next year.
Still could happen.
You know what?
It still could happen.
Dude,
I don't know if you know this, but he's only a $5 million hit on the cap if we release him after this year.
Yeah.
So he's not a big cut, not a big hit on the cap. And I'm not sure where the Raiders team's going, but let's a good segue right into it. Because,
I just want to drop back. You had asked about Jones. No, I don't think he's the answer.
Yeah.
I don't think he's someone that I want the ball in towards the end of the game. It's just that you want that kind of quarterback who you really believe in those crucial moments.
Like Tom Brady down 16-3 with 5 minutes to go.
Right. Oh, man.
Guy's unbelievable. I'm telling you, last night, he looked like he was 90 years old for 40-something minutes of that game. He looked like he was done. He looked like, all right, Tampa's going to go to 5-7. The Saints team might make a run. We're going to have this terrible team be below 500 in the playoffs, the whole thing. And then the last 5 minutes, bam, 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 game's over, 17-16. Buccaneers win 6-6, 2-game lead in the division, probably going to win it. Dallas is going to be there in 5 or 6 weeks as a 6-point favorite on the road in Tampa. That's what it looks like, right?
The frustrating thing with that game is New Orleans could have won that. And the reason why, one play that really stands out to me towards the end, there was like 5 minutes left, and Ingram made the catch. He wasn't aware where he was, so he went out of bounds a yard short of the first down. He could easily have cleared it, right? And then the 3rd and 1, they decide, instead of running it, which is killing me with a lot of these teams, including my own right now, is they make a throw. They don't get it. If they got the first down, more time would have went down. They probably would have went for a field goal, and Tampa Bay wouldn't have had a chance. These are key plays.
I don't first of all, Ingram went out of bounds because he was hurt. If you looked after that play, first of all, he was hurt before that, earlier in the game. He was grabbing his knee. He catches that ball, he swings out, and he just basically goes out of bounds because he's hurt again. He basically got off the field. So he didn't even pick up the first down. If he would have stayed in bounds and won a couple more yards, it was the first down. That's the first thing. So, that's on the Saints for putting him out there injured, knowing that the whole thing. But 3rd and 1, I want to say they had one timeout left. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure there. But either way, you go for it. Even if you don't make it on 3rd and 1 and they call timeout, right? Now you take away all the timeouts, but at least you potentially run a little more clock. If you make it, you basically win the game because you're going to run another minute and 45, 2 minutes off the clock, even if you don't move the ball a yard from there. And if you punt it away, now you give them the ball 16-3 with 3 minutes left instead of 5 minutes, and you put in a whole different situation. For some reason, teams that play Tom Brady, I don't know if they panic. I don't know what it is. Because if you remember what the Falcons did in the Super Bowl, they stopped running the ball. They could have basically fell on the ball for a full quarter and won. Yeah. And where they decided to pass made no sense. And I don't understand why you're passing that. It just doesn't matter. I mean, don't tell me you have confidence in your quarterback. He's Andy Dalton. I mean, he's not Pat Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. And if you're going to pass there, how about give him a run pass option, right? Maybe put Taysom Hill in there and let him roll out. And if the guy's not open, he can run for the first down. At least get a little creative, not a quick little slant when the guy's playing press coverage up on him. It made no sense. Just very frustrating. And I'm just frustrated. I didn't care who won or lost the game. I was frustrated in bad football, Even Todd Bowles, he punted there on 4th and 4 with like 7 minutes to go with a down by 13 points. What are you punting for? You got Tom Brady. He's 4th and 4. Let him.
He's a defensive coordinator, not a head coach.
I know. I think he seems like a really good guy, and I know he's a really good defensive coordinator. He just doesn't seem like a head coach to me. Like Tony Dungy always, when he was in Tampa, seemed like a head coach, right? Like he was like a guy that like knew how to like manage the system and the whole thing there in Tampa. I don't know. It's just different. I don't know. It just doesn't. It's not a warm and fuzzy there with Mr. Bowles. But all right, my Raiders, man. Let me tell you.
He's all high on the Raiders.
Let me tell you, Devontae Adams. Let me tell you that guy. That guy has changed the team in the last 4 weeks. He is unbelievable. He is amazing. Forget about Derek Carr. I could throw the ball to Devontae Adams and he's going to catch it. It's just incredible. Josh Jacobs. I'll tell you, Josh Jacobs has been phenomenal. And that flea flicker really worked well because Jacobs is running the ball so amazingly that you had a pinch when he got the ball. You had to try to put 8 men in the box, and Adams just ran past everybody. He's got like sneaky speed. He's got phenomenal hands. He's on pace, which is crazy. You wouldn't know this unless you're following the team. He's on pace, Adams, to actually set his own single season receiving yards record. That's how he's like his numbers have completely changed in the last 3 weeks. And the team has changed in the last 3 weeks. The defense is playing better. Chandler Jones finally had a big game. He finally showed up for us when we do. Max Crosby, like I said, is off the chart. And the team has really put themselves in a good position. And guess who we probably get to play on Thursday? Do you know? Good old Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, going to the Rams. God, what a story that guy's had.
Oh, my God. He's all over the place. Who would believe he was the number 1 pick 5 years ago? I mean, he went from the number 1 pick. Everybody was super high on him, and now he's basically picked up by a team that's won 3 games, not going anywhere, just so they can have, some sense of serviceability.
But I disagree with it. Like you said it best. Like, why pick him up now when you know that you're not going to get to the playoffs. I can understand if you're kind of in the middle that you could make a potential playoff push, but they're not even there. So why do you do that right now?
I think Sean McVay probably likes the guy and giving him a shot to maybe try out to make it
next year. I don't know.
That's the only thing, right? What else makes sense?
It doesn't make sense,
right?
You want to make a playoff run, do it, but this made no sense to me.
But you're not making a playoff run. Even if you win your next 5 games, you're not making a playoff run. But so the only thing that makes sense is you like the guy and you're letting him try out for other teams. You're basically saying to him, come to Los Angeles,
right?
Come to a real offense, because we know Sean McVay runs a real offense, and show people you can play in the RPO kind of offense and be able to play action, off a really good running game, and someone will sign you next year. And that's really what it comes down to. So, well, we shall see what happens. So, but again, my Raiders are in a really good spot here, Mike.
They are.
They're in a good spot.
You're right there.
I think you're starting to worry in Jets land, because you guys lose this week and we win. We're a game behind you. We start knocking at your door for that 7th spot. Watch out, New England. Watch out, Chargers. Watch out, Jets.
It's a crapshoot.
The Raiders are there. And you know who else is coming up there? Also 5 and 7? The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
And if you don't think Mike Tomlin is a good coach, and I know a lot of Steeler fans don't like the guy, which makes no sense to me. But if you don't think he's a good coach, at 5 and 7 with that team that he has right now and a rookie quarterback, you're dead wrong. They are in a place where they can make a little run, and I think the Raiders play the Steelers in 2 weeks. It's soon. That's going to end up becoming a huge game out of nowhere.
Right. So, that's how crazy this AFC is with the seeding, that you win a game, you could go up 3 notches or go down. I mean, it's crazy right now.
Yeah.
That's how close it is.
It is a wild NFL. And talking about a wild NFL, let's go up to Minnesota and let's talk about your team. And I'm just going to tell you 2 things, and then I'll let you talk. 2 things that stuck out in my head. One, very, very big missing of Breece Hall in this game. I think it showed as much as Bam Knight and the Ty Johnson and the nice little backs and nice stories. Breece Hall would be the kind of guy that you're going to give the ball 25 times in that kind of game. So I think that was sorely missed. And the second thing is, you can't kick that many field goals. Mike White has to figure it out. And he's a young guy. It's only his 2nd start this season. I think it's only maybe his 4th or 5th total start. You would know better than I do. But he needs to figure out a way to get that ball in the end zone. And again, it could be coaching. It could be a lot of things. I'll let you talk to all that. But those are my 2 observations. I think missing a running back, so maybe things change the way you call offense, and I just think Mike White has to get a little bit better to make the plays. To me now, the difference I see in him and Zach Wilson and Daniel Jones is that he seems like he can make plays when he needs to. He made some big throws in certain situations, the big 4th down throw to Corey Davis there. I even think that Berrios dropped that ball. I don't think that was his fault. So I think he threw for over 300 plus yards again. It just seemed, and again, you're going into Minnesota on the road, tough game to play in, but at least to me, I have a little more confidence with him under center than some of these other guys. But Gad, I'll let you speak to the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, your first point about Breece Hall, yeah, he was absolutely needed. And when you throw the football 57 times, what were the Jets doing really well? They were balancing, passing and running. And the run game was really non-existent, right? And I look at this, I stand by Mike White. He had a phenomenal game, hit his receivers, and that is the biggest difference with him and Zach Wilson, that Zach Wilson, every time he threw it, he was throwing it into coverage. It wasn't completed. He couldn't even make short passes. Mike White has a great variety in his game plan. But what was horrible was the play calling in the red zone. And you're not going to win games when you when you have mostly field goals and you can't get in the end zone. There were 5 or 6 times in the red zone that I think they converted once. And that was on a Mike White sneak, actually, that was almost not even there. But when you have 3 downs to get in the end zone on the 1-yard line, and we alluded to this in the New Orleans game, why don't you run the ball? Robinson, McKnight, like run it, QB sneak. These plays were just ridiculous. So I think a lot of the blame goes to the offensive coordinator in this game, because I think the Jets outplayed Minnesota, not in the first half, but the second half, we had it. We had it in the palm of our hands. And there were so many times we could have went ahead. The defense really stepped it up. Defense has been always solid, but it was just a frustrating game to lose. So you got to get back to that running, passing game. Just 57 passes is too much attempts. It's too much. Utilize that. And also, again, when you're in the red zone, have smart play calling. And that wasn't happening. So I think that was a big determination of the game, the outcome. Now, what was tough about it, just talking about these playoffs, is every game is so crucial, and the Jets' schedule is not getting any easier. They played Buffalo this week, and they won against Buffalo. But you know how hard it's going to be to beat Buffalo twice in one season. It's not going to be an easy feat. Not impossible, but not easy. And then also you got a Detroit Lions team who I said at the beginning of the year they're a team that's improving, and they're no joke. They're hot right now. Yep. So the Jets are playing them at the wrong time. You got to play. It's always hard to play Seattle in Seattle. Always hard to go on the West Coast, right? You have Jacksonville that you think would be a winnable game, and then your final game is in Miami, which is probably going to have all kinds of playoff implications. So it will be very interesting how this plays out. But that was a tough one in Minnesota. I think a lot of people, including myself, thought they were going to win. It was going to be a tough game, but we proved, I think, out of being optimistic that we could go head-to-head with this 9-2 team. We're right there. And that's something that, carry off your shoulders. And Mike White is our quarterback, period. I don't want to hear stuff about what's going to happen next year. We got to focus on this next 5 games and really stay focused. Again, the Jets defense, phenomenal, but better play calling on offense. And this is learning. Like you said, Vinny, this was his 5th game, right? So things don't happen overnight. But what he's done in those games this year, like, you couldn't ask for more from Mike White. Anyone who speaks differently, I can't get on board with that. I think he's done everything asked of him. He's played really well, made some great passes in the clutch. So on to the next game.
Yeah, he was 1 pass away from Salah saying he's our starting quarterback for the rest of the year. If they score a touchdown there, win or lose, at that point, they take the lead. If Kirk Cousins somehow leads Vikings back down and the Vikings win, I think they say right then and there that he's their starting quarterback. So they just didn't say it because they didn't win the game, and I think they want to see some wins and move in that direction. But they're 1 win away. But I'll tell you, Mike, it's December 6th, and the Jets and Giants are playing in competitive games, and we're talking about them here in December. I don't know the last time we talked about either team in December.
Very true.
Maybe we were talking about, the college games that we wanted to watch to see who we wanted to draft with one of the top 5 picks. We wanted to see the kid from Georgia that's 6'6" and 350 pounds and tackles quarterback with his left hand and cheers with his right hand at the same time. But instead we're not. We're sitting here. We're talking about a really big game coming up in Buffalo, a really big game in Philadelphia, another big game in Washington for the Giants. Like you said, big games against Detroit and Seattle and that Miami game. But let's take a quick commercial and then come back. We'll talk a little bit more about the AFC because things changed pretty quickly this weekend, and just want to get some of your thoughts on that.
Got it.
So, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is my go-to when betting on the NFL this holiday season. I get out there, Mike. I tell you that my player props that I do, the anytime touchdowns, I think I had plus 20 something thousand this weekend. Out of the 11, I think I got 5. So I'm getting closer. One of these days we're gonna hit, and then we're gonna go have extra lovely juicy steaks. Okay, right now new customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Check this out. Right now, everyone can earn up to 100% boost with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, place a same game parlay, and combine multiple bets like which team will win, player props, point totals, and more. The more legs you add, the bigger the boost, the bigger your shot to win big. I tell you, I think this week I'm going to take my Raiders on Thursday. I'm not even going to look at the spread. Money line, crush it. Gonna do it. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code TPPN. Place a $5 bet on any NFL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code TPPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply, and see show notes for details. All right. So let's talk a little bit about Miami. You know, the Dolphins, which I thought this was you thought they were a team that maybe could make a little noise, and I think they went out there to San Francisco, and the first play of the game, a 75-yard touchdown pass to Sheffield, I think his name is, touchdown, 7-0 Miami. And I'm like, wow, this team has got this high flying offense. Tua is just like rolling here. I was like, this team is gonna be a 2 seed. And then all of a sudden, and then Jimmy G breaks his foot basically on the next drive, and he's done for the season. Which today I heard now he might need surgery. He might be back for the playoffs, which we'll wait and see. But everything is like all of a sudden pointing like, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, the first Mr. Irrelevant to throw a touchdown pass in the NFL, the whole thing. No one knows this guy. No, I'm thinking of Chase Purdy, the NASCAR driver. I mean, I don't know who this guy is, right? So he comes out, bam, 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 running the ball. McCaffrey, Debo, Kittle. That defense goes crazy. They basically beat the crap out of Miami. Tua, they looked terrible. They did an unbelievable job. And again, I just think Miami doesn't translate on the road. And I think we talked about that a few times. I think it really showed in this game. And now they drop to a 6 seed, which is unbelievable. They go from a 2 to a 6.
Just like that.
Which means I think they would have to right now go to Baltimore, but potentially Cincinnati, which I think more people are on the Cincinnati bandwagon now than the Baltimore bandwagon, especially with Lamar being hurt and all this other stuff going on there too. But I just don't think Miami is that team, we thought they were a week ago. I think they really didn't translate well on the road. I thought that was a game that was setting up perfectly for them to win on the road, and they just basically, we're terrible. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. After that first drive, there was nothing really to write home about. There was nothing that interests you. And I think watching Purdy play was more interesting to me than anything else. And, it's again, you see these guys get their shots. My son asked me today, how does a third string, quarterback get to play? And I'm like, well, your first string quarterback breaks his ankle, your second string quarterback breaks his foot. So there you go. There's your shot, I mean, we always talk about, Tom Brady and how he got his shot. Sometimes you take advantage of injury, you don't hope for it, but that's your opportunity. And he took advantage, and he's going to have another start this weekend, and we'll see what comes out of it. But I want to just get some of your Miami thoughts, and maybe you throw in some Bengal news. I don't know, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I was just shocked with Purdy. I mean, he comes in and throws 2 touchdowns, and again, like every time I think Miami's going to go really far, then they take a step back. So I don't know. And also the rushing wasn't there. Yeah, Mostert and Wilson. I mean, they were like non-existent. It was a very dull game for them, aside from that first drive. So I don't know. Now they're playing a Chargers team, and I laughed to myself and Vinny too that this is the first time that we're going to cheer for the Dolphins because we don't want the Chargers coming in the playoff race. But we'll see. How do they come back from a loss? And we'll see. But they've been pretty consistent, the Dolphins. But like you said, the road has not been too good to them. But it was I think I was more impressed with the Dolphins. I mean, more impressed with the Niners, if you can understand, with the backup quarterback than the Dolphins losing. I think that was really impressive. A backup quarterback coming in and having that much success, it was really impressive.
Yeah, and you're right. We're going to be cheering for the Chargers. And the Dolphins have to fly back out there. So, it's like another West Coast game for them. And I'm just worried about them at this point. At this point, I'm almost hoping they go into the free fall and we pass them. Yeah. Maybe the Jets could pass them. They got the advantage right now. Why not at this point?
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. And talking about the crazy AFC. So
Cincinnati, we got to talk about.
Well, first off, the Bills are the 1 seed again.
Okay.
And they've looked really good over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Ever since the Jet game, they've been a lot better. And Josh Allen maybe has half the arm that he has. Maybe the elbow's starting to heal a little bit better, but they've been a lot better since the Jet game. Some tough games, but they continue to win, find ways to win. But you're right. Let's talk about these Cincinnati Bengals, because it was around this time last year that they started to get hot. And Burrow started to get hot. And I tell you, Jamar Chase just being back in that lineup, you could see the difference in that offense. He is unbelievable, that guy. He's a phenomenal receiver. I'll tell you, I know I say it a lot. There is no team that would have beaten Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, LSU team in college. I don't know if you can find. I don't think you could go. It's one of those things that maybe you have to look at the historical things. Maybe some of those old Miami teams, those Ray Lewis, University of Miami teams, or maybe one of these Alabama teams. But that LSU team, that's good. That would be. It's going to be one of the top college teams ever. We got to bring our man Jason Bailey on and talk about that.
Very love to come back.
Hopefully, you're going to have him come on as we get through this bowl season, but with him as well. But let me regress here.
Sure.
He got Pat Mahomes' number, and I think I tell you, I watched the show Speak with Shady McCoy and Emmanuel Acho, and it's a good show. I think people should check it out. They do a really good job there. Acho made a good point. He says it's like when Mike Tyson fought Evander Holyfield, right? It's not that Mike Tyson wasn't the scariest dude in the world still,
right,
like Pat Mahomes is. Pat Mahomes is still the scariest quarterback. It's just that Evander Holyfield wasn't scared of him.
That's right.
And Joe Burrow's not scared of Pat Mahomes, right? He even did the money thing after he took the knee, right? He said, hey, this is, my house. We won our money. We've beaten you every time, It's like Holyfield went in and beat Mike Tyson twice. Mike Tyson got so frustrated in the second fight, he bit Holyfield's ear off, right? It's like Mahomes, after this game, I never seen him get so angry and throw his helmet. I've never seen Mahomes act like that. So there's there's that little feel there. And I think they made a good point. I think this Bengal team just has their number right now and a potential 2-3 matchup down the road.
Oh, yeah.
Or, some kind of matchup where Cincinnati has got to go into Kansas City or Kansas City's got to go into Cincinnati. It could still go that way. I think Baltimore is going to fade, even though they have a 3 seed now. I think the Lamar injury, the way they're playing, just think the Bengals are a better team overall. So I think that's where the Bengals will pop up. But I don't know. I don't know. And then
Yeah.
Kelsey fumbled. Kelsey doesn't fumble.
No.
I mean, it was just crazy.
That was a huge motivational win. And what's funny? On Sunday, the Browns, the Bengals are playing the Browns, and the Browns destroyed the Bengals at the end of October. This, to me, huge revenge game. The way the Bengals are playing, like they should absolutely outlast. I mean, they should win by a good margin. They're probably going to be my big bet. And that's like you're not looking at the Raiders spread. I think this is something where the Bengals just take care of business. They're just a different team. They're a different team, and they come up strong. Like they're coming up strong at the right time.
All right, and now the NFC. We'll just jump there real quick because I want to get into a little baseball before we end the show. I want to talk a little baseball, but I think we got to talk NFC real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
You think? Now you've been watching football for a long time, like I do.
Yeah.
How many times in your memory bank have you seen a 10-2 team that nobody even considers a top 3 team in their own conference? Might as well maybe not even a top 5 team in the NFL. I mean, the Vikings legitimately get zero respect.
Yeah,
and again, I know it has a lot to do with them losing to the Eagles and the Cowboys going up there and absolutely annihilating them.
Yeah.
But they're still 10-2.
Right.
So it's like, have you ever? I mean, what team at that level have you thought of that?
I can't even think about it because
there's no one.
There's nobody that comes to mind.
Maybe some of our audience will know. Text us, tweet us if you're on the YouTube right now. Message us if you can think of a team. But I think it's nuts. But at the same time, I look at the Eagles. I don't see a pathway for anyone in the NFC to beat them right now. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I think they legitimately are going to be a very tough team to beat in the NFC. Maybe San Francisco can figure it out. Maybe Dallas, but
don't forget about Tampa, man.
Yeah, I don't see Tampa.
I don't know. I just feel like he's just on a different planet.
I know. I know. I'm doubting greatness. I'm again going against my own.
I'm not saying it's high. I'm not saying it's like a like a Cowboy.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now. We know he's the greatest NFL player of all time. If that team at 6-6 right now wins a Super Bowl, I'm going to put him over Jordan as an all-time great.
Okay. You heard it here.
I just can't see. I can't see how you cannot consider him to be at that level at that point. This is not a good Tampa team.
It's not a good team, but they're also winning at the right time, and the way they're winning. Last game, they're motivated, but yeah, they're one thing that Tom Brady. I would say with this season, aside from the Eagles, right, who I think are pretty dominant, it's so wild right now, Vinny. And I feel like you make the playoffs, no matter what seed you are, you have. I mean, if let's say the Jets get that 7th seed, and they play the Bills. Well, we know the Jets beat the Bills once in the regular season. Why can't they do it again in the playoffs, right?
Well, it'd be interesting if they beat them twice, right? And that's the 2-7 matchup, or
it'd be crazy,
or the 3-6 matchup. It's like becomes really crazy.
I know. I don't know. I think that it's the NFC to me. I'd love to see the Giants make it. I'd love to see the Jets make it. I think it would be so great for New York football. That haven't even watched December football in a long time together. Both teams. People were asking me like, "Oh, you must be. No matter if the Jets make the playoffs, you're proud of them, right?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm proud of them." But when you get this far, and there's been just so many positives this season, it's like, let's just get to the playoffs. It's been 11 years. Let's just do it. We hold our own destiny. We're in very similar positions right now, so it's exciting for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like we talk about, the over under was what,
5.5.
5.5.
5.5 for the Jets, and I think the Giants were not much higher than that.
Yeah, so you're that's what the expectation is, right? The expectation is 5-12, 6-11. That's the expectation. You're well above expectations right now. And that's what motivates you to move forward and hoping that you take that next step. People talk about, how far can they get if they make it? Well, you don't know.
You don't know. It's a wild card.
It's no. How many people picked Bengals Rams last year? It was the first time in NFL history when they had the 1 and 2 seeds, the modern way the playoffs are set up, that neither a 1 or a 2 from either conference made the Super Bowl. So not too many people were picking Bengals Rams last year. So, and there was very few people taking the Bengals at all because of the Bills and the Chiefs and all that stuff going on over in the AFC, which they thought the AFC was super dominant, right? So you don't know. You don't know where we're going. And every week something crazy happens. Like I say, it's always hard to win on the road in the NFL. And then sometimes you get these teams that just out of the blue win on the road, right? And then you think about it, it's like, well, the team they just beat at home, are they that good? It makes you reconsider your whole thought process, like week to week. You read some of these rankings that these guys come out with, you try to figure out, are they wrong or they're right? You don't even know if that's wrong or right because it's just so crazy.
There's so much variance. Like we talked about the Dolphins, they went down like 3 or 4 notches. That's what it takes. I mean, if you think about it, right, in that AFC, the Bills are what? What's the record?
9-3.
Right?
Yep.
And the Jets are 7-5.
Yeah.
Right? So the Jets are only 2 games out.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. It like it says, it could switch really quick.
Every week things are going to switch.
But the good thing, and this is what I'll keep saying, is the Jets and Giants have destiny in their own hand. They don't need any help.
No, right? They don't.
So
just win the game.
Keep winning, keep moving forward, and maybe somebody in the front office will like Daniel Jones and Mike White and keep them there next year.
Now, Matt Carl and I, we were laughing because he texted me. He goes, biggest game of the season next week. But that seems to be every Jet game. That's I say against Minnesota. I'm going to say it every week because it is. Every week is so.
Do you still feel that second New England game was bigger than any game so far this season?
I would have to say yes.
Right at that time, and
but it was because they had beat us already, and you have to think of just getting in Belichick's head, tiebreaker implications. But in a way, when I watched that game with my buddy Dave, who was on our podcast, it was just when the Jets lost the way they did on that punt return. It was kind of just putting us out of our misery, and we needed change. So I think it was important to get Mike White and get him starting. I don't know if that would have happened if Zach Wilson wasn't the way he was in the press conference because Saleh is a player's coach. I think he would have probably started against the Bears, and then if he was awful, he probably would have been taken out at halftime. But that was huge for the Jets. So to me, it's been a storybook season. You start out with Joe Flacco, then Zach Wilson, and now Mike White. And now the biggest question is, how do we end this season? Yeah. We're definitely capable. And I think with some better coaching and play calling, we could be right there. We proved that we could beat the Bills, right? So I know a lot of people are saying, including myself, I have to be honest, I know it's going to be very difficult to go into Buffalo, but it's not impossible. You just got to get off to a better start in the first half. I don't think you can get off to a start like you did against Minnesota and come back against that.
You got to change 3s into 6s, right?
100%.
That's really where you got to start. You can move the ball all you want, but you can't have Greg Zuerlein kick 5 field goals in a game against Buffalo because Josh Allen will drive in the red zone 5 times and score 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's
he's not getting stuck at the 1 yard line.
No, he doesn't get stuck at the 2-yard line. That guy, freaking freight train. So, all right, I just want to change the sport real quick because I think we need to talk about a couple of pitchers in free agency, and we'll start with Jacob deGrom, 5 years, $185 million to the Texas Rangers, monster deal. Nobody in their right mind wouldn't sign that contract, even if he wanted to stay as a Met, which I don't think he ever really wanted to, but that's besides the point. But my question to you, Mike, and I'll give you my feeling before you answer, is 5 years for Jake deGrom. Every Met fan I've talked to, and every Met fan I've heard from, is upset that he's gone. But they're not upset that he went for 5 years, 185. They wanted him back for 2 years and have like a 2-year run. And, because Scherzer's only probably got a year or two left. You can see he's starting to fade. And you worry about deGrom, who really faded towards the end of the last season.
That's what I was going to say.
Been injured the last couple of years. And now, if you give him a 5-year deal, as we know in baseball, it's not football. This money is guaranteed unless you're Deshaun Watson, who we didn't talk about. But we don't need to talk about that awful, dreadful game he had. But I would not give him 5 years. And I think the Mets made the right move in not offering that kind of contract. I heard they were offering like the same amount of money that they gave Verlander, which was like 2 years, 86 million. I think was a similar contract in what they offered deGrom, and they replaced him with Verlander, and I'll be honest, I would take Verlander on the 2-year deal more than I would take deGrom on the 5-year deal. Guy's won 3 Cy Young Awards. The guy's won multiple World Series, been in multiple World Series. He's shown, and he's not the best World Series pitcher, but he's shown that he's a big time pitcher, just like Jake could be in certain situations. And you get him for the contract that I think he's worth, and I think that's the way I look at it with deGrom. I you probably agree, but I
do agree with you, because he was definitely everyone saw the decline as a Mets fan, right? So 5 years is a long time. So I feel like if it were a 2-year deal, I could get behind that. But 5 years, I think it's a big risk. If you saw someone that was if you saw someone who was kind of playing in their prime on the upside, I'd be all over it. But I can't get behind that either, Vinny. We saw with our own eyes what happened this year.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
So,
I saw a guy that really, really faded down the stretch, and maybe he needs to build strength up back in that arm. But the kind of injuries that he's had, with the fracture in the lat or the back or whatever, that's like a weird injury, right? It's not your elbow, it's not your rotator cuff. It's it's something that does it pop back up in the next couple of years. And the thing is, he's not a 28-year-old pitcher,
right?
That's the other thing. He's a 34-year-old pitcher that's had big time shoulder problems.
Yep.
You remember elbow injuries are one thing in baseball. Tommy John surgery is almost at the point where it's like a perfected art, right? Guys get a torn elbow ligament, they go for Tommy John, they rehab for a year, they come back and they're stronger than ever. Like Verlander is proof of that, right? Shoulder surgeries are very, they're not guaranteed. You don't know what goes on. You got to replace rotator cuffs and all this stuff, and then scar tissue builds up, and then you got to go back in there, clean up scar tissue, and then you're not sure if the speed comes back on the fastball, all the other things that go on, with shoulder surgeries. You've seen it happen to guys like Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood. You can name, the guys that were superstar kind of pitchers that got shoulder kind of problems and faded, and again, like I said, he's 34. Another shoulder injury to this guy, that's it. He's not gonna. The 101 mile fastball is gonna go away. The big time slider is gonna go away, and that's my fear in giving him a 5-year deal. I think he was the perfect guy to maybe give him a 2-year deal with 3 1-year options, right? You give him a 5-year deal, but maybe give him these 1-year options, club and player options that either one of them can opt in or opt out after the 2 years. And if you want to bring him back for a 3rd year because he just won 2 Cy Youngs for you and he wants to stay there, he can, or at that point he can opt out and go somewhere else. But I can't see him getting more than 2 years guaranteed. I think 185 was just way too much guaranteed money for him at this point.
Yeah, we're agree on that. And then the Verlander, you got 86 million, 2 years vesting option, a 3rd year. I think, how can you not celebrate that? As you said, Vinny, Cy Young Award winner. He was very well liked leader in Houston. I think the Mets did very well, and it was crucial to sign him. So
yeah, and they helped the Yankees a little bit.
Absolutely,
get him out of Houston.
Yep.
Even though they find a better pitcher every single year. It's like they lose Cole and Verlander, and they're even better now than they were when they had them. Like makes no sense. It's like the Patriots, right? It's like you had Deflategate and Spygate and all these gates and all this cheating that goes around, and you're like, oh, that's the reason they won Super Bowls, and Brady comes back at in the twilight years and wins another 3 Super Bowls as a Patriot, and you're like, well, maybe it was more than that. And here's Houston. Well, they filmed everything, they sold everyone's signs, they knew what pitchers were coming, and and now here they are. They continue to make the World Series and they win one again. So it's just like, oh my God, as much as you want to accuse them of A, B, and C, it's still the best team wins, and you don't know. And then it makes you think, right? Now there's where the thought comes in. Is everyone doing the same thing? And they're just better. They were just a better team to begin with, altogether. Right?
Yeah.
So, before we end, I just want to, and I think this is something just talk about real quick. They had the special committee. I forget what it was called exactly, but it's another wing of the Baseball Hall of Fame voting, and they nominated 8 players, and Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Kurt Schilling, Don Mattingly, Fred McGriff, Dale Murphy, Albert Bell, and Rafael Palmeiro. That's the 8. Wow, I did that. I got that off my head. That was good. That was impressive. I impressed myself. All right.
Very nice.
So 16 members, members of the Hall of Fame, I think some executives. It's 16 individuals get together and they discuss all 8 guys. McGriff got yeses from all 16, which I totally agree with. I don't know how he never got in the normal voting. Like when you look at his numbers and it makes no sense. I watched the guy play, Hall of Fame player. No one else got in. Mattingly got 8 of the 16. And I know for us, that's disappointing.
But you always talked about the back injuries and he didn't play.
We know there's no, he misses the length of greatness. His greatness in 5 years is unmatched. He was the best player in the American League, maybe in baseball, from 83 to 88, right? Whatever those years are. But he those were Hall of Fame years. But with Baseball Hall of Fame, they look at longevity, right? So we're disappointed. But I think this is the big thing. We know Bonds and Clemens have monster numbers, off the chart. Number 1 leaders in 7 Cy Young, 7 MVPs. We know everything. Home runs, the whole thing. We know the steroids are all tied into it. But they didn't get at least even 4 votes. So that means they got less than 25% of their peers. Now, you're talking about fellow Hall of Famers, people that are not the media. These are their peers, executives, people that are part of the game that are not voting them in. I think these guys are going to have a very, very hard time ever getting in the Hall of Fame at this point, because I don't know where they find 12 votes from their constituents, especially these are guys they played with or guys that are a little older than them.
Right.
Where are they going to find these votes? Once they come up for these committees every few years, I mean, is it going to take until they're in the grave until they get in the Hall of Fame at this point? Just what are you thinking?
I compare it. I think it's like, what standard are you going to use, right? Because I keep going back to Pete Rose, right? Greatest hitter ever in the game, should be in the Hall of Fame, right? So you have to really look at what you provided in your tenure there, and what are we looking at here? What's really established? To me, these guys were both great players. I know, like you said, with the steroids, but you have to look at the whole package. I just don't think the MLB has a standard. I think kind of everything's all over the place. Like, you have to really figure out, what are you looking at? Who are you going to put in this Hall of Fame, and who's deserving? But I don't think they established that yet. I think it's all over the place. Are these guys really getting what they deserve? What do you think? I mean, if you look at their whole careers and what they provide to the game, would you put them in the Hall of Fame?
I think it comes down to a couple things, right? Are you putting guys in the Hall of Fame that have used performance enhancing drugs? Right?
Right. They have to establish that.
Right. So can you prove that at all? Right? Which I don't think you really can.
Yeah.
Right? That's the first thing. The second thing is, the guys that are voting no are looking at the integrity of the sport, right? And you're going to get some of these old-time players like, I don't know, Willie Mays, Reggie Jackson. I know Reggie's been vocal. Frank Thomas, vocal. That they're totally against the PEDs. These guys did not play up to the standards of the integrity of the game, and they don't think they should be next to them in the Hall of Fame. So it's about, one is you can't have it for one guy and not the other. So you need to make sure that everyone that you're putting in was clean, which you can't prove. And then it's the other way where, there's an integrity standpoint that these guys live by, right? They felt, Reggie Jackson and Frank Thomas probably feel they could have hit 70 home runs if they were doing PEDs, and probably Greg Maddux could have struck out, 5,000 guys on PEDs and Pedro Martinez, and so it comes down to both ways. My thing is, they were never found guilty of anything. Looking at them and seeing, it's hard to say they didn't use it.
Right.
But never found guilty, never failed test, all this other stuff that you do. And I think that has to be taken in consideration, especially, like I said, there's guys rumored that are in the Hall of Fame. Right? There's guys rumored, Pudge Rodriguez rumored, David Ortiz rumored, Jeff Bagwell rumored, these are guys, Mike Piazza rumored.
Yeah.
Right? You could go down the list. So you put them in. So why are you keeping the other guys out?
Exactly. If you either stick to one thing, exactly.
And I know there's certain voters, and I give them credit. They don't vote for any steroid era player, except the guys that their bodies never really changed, like Mariano Rivera, Derek Jeter, Chipper Jones. You could tell like they stayed there. And again, at the same time, I don't know if they took something to help them with recovery. That's the thing with PEDs. There's certain PEDs out there that don't add on 40 pounds of muscle. they help with recovery, right? So you can wake up the next day and play again. So I can't. Again, I'm not accusing anyone, but how do you know if you didn't test everybody at all the time? How do you know? So it's a lot, and our good friend Anthony said, A-Rod will never make it, but again, he tested positive, right? Well, actually, he didn't even test positive. He was just suspended because he was accused of taking it. I don't even think he tested positive. I think they just he was part of some investigation that linked him to it. But we know that he did it. And Anthony, he changed his image when he was engaged to J-Lo. It's not about his TV all the time, even though he's everywhere and he's been on every event that you can name in the last 2 years. There's this whole J-Lo thing that got him where he is today. So let's remember that. So, all right. Good? All right.
Good show, Vin.
Very good show. A lot of good topics. Again, everybody, go to vinandmikepodcast.com. If you're on your computer, you can just go right to the top there. There's the Vin and Mike store. You click it. You go in there. You buy a shirt. We're donating any proceeds we get to a charity. It's a nice shirt. I got the gray one with the thing. I think Mike forgot what color he ordered.
What color I got? I'm gonna.
We'll find out next. We'll find out next week what he ordered. Again, this is what I forgot to do. This was what I was doing while I wasn't paying attention to you.
How dare you?
All right. I'm going to take, forget the money line because it's minus 245. I'm going to take -6, -110 it is, Raiders Thursday. Everybody, Raiders, here we come. Watch out, AFC. Hold on tight. It's going to be a fun ride for you guys.
I can't wait till next week's show.
All right, everyone. Have a good night. Mike, talk to you soon.
Then see you.